Trying to hide the leg he lost in war, Dmitry Petrov just wanted a quiet dinner at his own restaurant. But nobody recognized him, and this failure of recognition was about to become a $2 million mistake. The Golden Spoon, located on East 82nd Street in Manhattan's Upper East Side, stood as one of New York's most prestigious restaurants. 3 Michelin stars, a James Beard Award, and ranked 12th on Forbes' World's 50 Best Restaurants list. Average check per person, $400. Wine list, 2,000 pages. Reservation waiting time, minimum 6 months. As Dmitry Petrov's cane struck the marble floor, even Joshua, the valet parking attendant, looked twice. The 32-year-old Ukrainian veteran walked with a pronounced limp, a prosthetic left leg, war's permanent reminder. His gray wool coat was old but quality, his shoes were military boots, and on his cane's handle, a small Ukrainian flag pin gleamed. "Good evening, sir," Joshua said, hesitation clear in his voice. "Are you here for dinner?" "Yes," Dmitry replied, his slight accent evident. "I have a reservation." Stepping through the restaurant's glass doors, Dmitry entered a different world. Crystal chandeliers, Italian marble, gold leaf details, every element screamed perfection. In the corner booth sat Michael Bloomberg's son, the hedge fund CEO. At another table, Maria Callas's granddaughter, the Met Opera star, dined elegantly. James Wellington, the maitre d', possessed 28 years of experience. Le Cordon Bleu graduate, 15 years working in France, fluent in French, and intimately familiar with every member of New York's high society. His Armani suit cost $8,000, his Patek Philippe watch $45,000, and his nose was so high in the air he could see the dome of heaven. "Good evening," James said, his eyes scanning Dmitry from head to toe. Military boots, old coat, walking with a cane. This man definitely wasn't Golden Spoon material. "Do you have a reservation?" "Yes, I do," Dmitry replied politely. "Under Petrov, 7 p.m. James checked the reservation system, his fingers dancing across the iPad. Open table system, Microsoft's cloud-based reservation program, 847 active reservations, 3-week waiting list. But there was no reservation under Petrov. "I'm sorry, sir," James turned with a fake smile. "I don't see any reservation under that name. Perhaps you're thinking of a different restaurant?" Dmitry's heart tightened. He'd experienced this before. In an Atlanta hotel lobby, at a Boston golf club, at a Chicago bank. Always the same looks, same tone, same assumptions. "Could you please check again?" Dmitry's voice remained patient. "Maybe under D. Petrov or Dmitry?" James theatrically searched the system again. Actually, he wasn't even searching. He was looking at new Range Rover photos on Instagram above the screen. "Sir, I've checked thoroughly. There's no reservation under that name." The couple waiting in the lobby corner, Harrison and Victoria Ashworth, from Manhattan's old money families, grandfather was Rockefeller's partner at Standard Oil, watched the situation with curiosity. Victoria's Hermes Birkin bag cost $85,000, Harrison's Breguet watch $175,000. "Darling," Victoria whispered to her husband, "these war refugees are everywhere now. Next, they'll want to join our country club." Harrison smiled. The audacity of these people, coming here expecting to be served like real Americans. Dmitry heard their words. His English was good enough to understand every word, but he didn't react. In Ukraine, in Mariupol, during the 73-day siege, he'd heard much worse. "Sir," James continued, impatience growing in his voice, "perhaps you're confused about the type of establishment this is. The Golden Spoon is a Michelin 3-star restaurant. Our clientele is, well, of a certain caliber." "I understand," Dmitry replied calmly. "Could you perhaps call your manager?" Irritation flashed in James's eyes. "I am the maitre d' here, sir. I have full authority over reservations and seating, and I'm telling you, we have no availability tonight, or any night this month for that matter." At this moment, executive chef Robert Martinez emerged from the restaurant. He'd worked at the Golden Spoon for 12 years. Dmitry had hired him personally. But from a distance, in dim lighting, and with Dmitry's old clothes, he didn't recognize him. "James, everything okay out here?" Robert asked. "Just a small misunderstanding, chef," James replied. This gentleman seems to believe he has a reservation. Robert looked at Dmitri. Something seemed familiar, but he couldn't be sure. Sir, if you'd like to make a reservation, we'd be happy to put you on our waiting list. Current availability is approximately 8 weeks out. Dmitri's phone buzzed in his pocket. Incoming messages notifying Sarah, HR VP. Boss, Forbes interviewing tomorrow at 3 p.m. about expansion plans. Michael, CFO. Q4 numbers ready for your review. Jennifer, PR Director. Wall Street Journal wants statement on new Chicago location. Look, James said, lowering his voice but loud enough for the Ashworth couple to hear. I don't want to be rude, but this restaurant has a dress code. And frankly, military surplus and combat boots don't meet our standards. What Dmitri wore as military surplus was actually custom-tailored Italian cashmere coat and handmade leather boots. But nobody noticed this. They just saw veteran, and their brains automatically conjured homeless, poor, damaged associations. Perhaps, James continued, there's a nice diner a few blocks down, much more appropriate for your situation. Dmitri clenched his hands. My situation? Well, James looked around and lowered his voice further. We all appreciate your service, truly. But this establishment caters to New York's elite, CEOs, diplomats, entertainment industry leaders, people who can afford our prices. Meanwhile, the lobby began filling up. It was 7:15 p.m. and the Golden Spoon's evening rush was beginning. Real estate mogul David Trump Jr., yes, that Trump, arrived with his assistant. James, he called out, my usual table ready? Of course, Mr. Trump. James turned 180 degrees, switching to service mode. Right this way, sir. Hedge fund billionaire Stephen Cohen's wife, Alexandra, entered wearing a $2.5 million Graf diamond necklace. Darling James, she purred, I hope you have the oyster special tonight. Absolutely, Mrs. Cohen. Table 8 is prepared for you. Then, former Goldman Sachs CEO Lloyd Blankfein arrived with his wife and 2 children. James, my friend, he said, extending his hand. Hope you saved some of that famous Wagyu for us. Always for you, Mr. Blankfein, table 15, your favorite spot. Dmitri still stood in the lobby, leaning on his cane, waiting patiently. With each new customer's arrival, James rushed to greet them, practically dancing. But when he turned to Dmitri, his face turned to stone. Sir, James was now openly annoyed, I really must insist that you leave. You're making our other guests uncomfortable. Dmitri looked around. Victoria Ashworth did indeed look uncomfortable, constantly staring at him and shaking her head. David Trump Jr. had also glanced over a few times and frowned. I understand, Dmitri said again. One phone call, then I'll go. James relaxed. Finally, this awkward situation would be resolved. Dmitri pulled out his iPhone 13 Pro Max, custom engraved with DPETROVCEO, and looked at his contacts, 2,847 people in his list, politicians, celebrities, business leaders, international diplomats. But he only needed one. Sarah, he said when the phone connected, it's Dmitri. James's ears perked up. Who could this Dmitri be? I'm at the Golden Spoon, Dmitri continued, no anger or irritation in his voice, just exhaustion. Yes, our flagship restaurant. James's eyes widened. What did our restaurant mean? We have a small situation here, Dmitri said, looking at James. James Wellington, our maitre d'. Yes, he's standing right in front of me. James's face drained of color. Sarah who? Which Sarah? He seems to have forgotten our customer service standards. Dmitri's voice remained calm. Perhaps some immediate retraining would be beneficial. James's hands began to tremble. There was only one Sarah he knew powerful enough to take this call. Sarah Michelle Rodriguez, Vice President of Human Resources at Petrov Hospitality Group. Yes, please let him know, Dmitri continued. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. sharp, my office at headquarters. James's knees started shaking. Petrov Hospitality Group, that name, that group. It wasn't just a name he'd heard. It was the parent holding company of the corporation he worked for. Thank you, Sarah. See you at the board meeting Thursday. Dmitri hung up and smiled at James. For the first time, a real smile. James, Dimitri's voice was completely different now, filled with authority. "I'm Dmitry Petrov, CEO and founder of Petrov Hospitality Group." The lobby froze, literally froze. Victoria Ashworth's Hermes bag fell from her hands. Harrison's Macallan whiskey dried in his mouth. David Trump Jr.'s eyes widened. He knew Petrov Hospitality Group. His father had been trying to do business with them for months. Chef Robert Martinez ran from the kitchen. "Mr. Petrov," he called out. "Sir, I didn't recognize you." Welcome back. James's world was collapsing. Petrov Hospitality Group owned not just the Golden Spoon, but 47 restaurants, 12 hotel chains, and a $300 million empire. "Mr. Petrov," James's voice was barely a whisper, I had no idea your usual appearance. I mean, my usual appearance?" Dimitri's voice had turned cold. "You mean when I'm not wearing a tuxedo? When I'm not surrounded by bodyguards and assistants?" "James," Dimitri struck his cane on the floor. "How long have you worked for my restaurants?" "3 years, sir," James stammered. 3 years, Dimitri repeated. "And in those 3 years, how many customers have you turned away based on their appearance?" James couldn't answer. "Let me tell you something," Dimitri spoke loud enough for everyone in the lobby to hear. "I built this company from nothing. I came to America with $500 in my pocket and a dream. I washed dishes in kitchens, cleaned floors in hotels, learned English from YouTube videos. The Ashworth couple now wanted to disappear into the floor. I lost my leg defending democracy in Ukraine," Dimitri continued. "I could have stayed there, collected disability, felt sorry for myself. Instead, I came here and built an empire." David Trump Jr. quietly pulled out his phone, texting his father. "Dad, remember that Ukrainian restaurant guy you wanted to meet? He's here. And he just fired his staff." "But you," Dimitri turned to James, "you looked at my clothes, my accent, my disability, and decided I wasn't worthy of eating in my own restaurant." Tears were coming from James's eyes. "Sir, please, I have a family, a mortgage." "So do the hundreds of customers you've discriminated against." Dimitri's response was final. "Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. HR will explain your severance package." Executive Chef Robert came to Dimitri's side. "Sir, your usual table is ready. Table 1, corner window, overlooking Central Park." "Thank you, Robert," Dimitri smiled. "But tonight, I think I'll take table 7, the one in the center of the dining room." Whispers had spread throughout the restaurant. "That's Dmitry Petrov, the Ukrainian war hero who built the hotel empire. He was turned away at his own restaurant." As Dmitri slowly walked to the dining room, every table watched him. The sound of his cane echoed on the hardwood floor, each step demonstrating his power. Waiter Michael, Princeton graduate, master's degree in hospitality, came to his table. "Mr. Petrov, sir, it's an honor. What can I start you with this evening?" "The 1982 Chateau Latour," Dimitri replied, "and the tasting menu. Excellent choice, sir." During dinner, table by table, people came to apologize. Even Victoria Ashworth came. "Mr. Petrov, my husband and I, we're deeply ashamed of our comments. We'd like to donate to Ukrainian relief efforts." "That's very kind," Dimitri replied, "but perhaps start with examining your own assumptions about people." At the end of dinner, as Dimitri sat alone, Julia Morrison from New York Magazine's food critic approached. "Mr. Petrov, I'm Julia Morrison. Could I ask you a few questions about tonight?" "Of course." "This incident, will it change how your restaurants operate?" Dimitri swirled the wine in his glass. "Julia, discrimination isn't just about race or religion. It's about assumptions. Tonight, my staff assumed a disabled veteran couldn't afford fine dining. Tomorrow, we're implementing new training protocols." "What kind of protocols?" "Every employee will undergo bias training. We're partnering with veteran organizations, and we're creating a scholarship program for hospitality students from disadvantaged backgrounds." Julia was taking notes rapidly. "And James Wellington?" "James taught us all a valuable lesson tonight." Dimitri's voice was sad. "Sometimes the person you underestimate is the person who holds your future in their hands." Dimitri paid the bill, $1,247 including tip, and stood up. At the restaurant exit, valet Joshua greeted him. Mr. Petrov, your car is ready, sir. Dimitri's Mercedes S-Class, modified, disability-friendly, waited at the door. Getting into the car, Dimitri looked back at the restaurant one last time. The Golden Spoon was his first restaurant. 8 years ago, when no one wanted to give him credit, he opened it with his own savings. Tonight, that restaurant reminded him of the most valuable lesson: never judge anyone by their appearance, because that person might hold your future in their hands. James Wellington didn't come to work the next morning. He never would. But the story didn't end here. This was just the beginning. The